So welcome everybody to this panel about the future of renewable energies in Europe, Leaders Vision, and greetings from London. My name is Sonia de Sales and I'm investment manager at Octopus Energy Generation. I have 9 years of experience in the energy industry where I've held business development positions, also project development positions, and more recently I'm in the investment side of this business. I have also had the opportunity to work in various European markets and also in Latin America. So today I have the pleasure to discuss about the energy industry in Europe with great experts and leaders in this industry. And the plan is to have a discussion about various topics, and then we will leave around 5 to 10 minutes for questions. I believe there will be a lot of questions because we are going to address lots of hot topics today. So first, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us José Pérez. José is a managing director at Abo Wind, Spain, and has more than 15 years of experience within the energy industry. Prior to joining Abo, José held several executive roles in Australia, South Africa, and Latam, developing and financing renewable energy projects. Inés Monroy, since 2025, Inés has developed her career in the PV sector in different companies of the value chain, operating in the manufacturing, development, EPC, and O&M of grid-type distributed generation and off-grid projects. She has held positions in business development and sales, project development, and project management in various different countries in Europe, Latin America, and Asia Pacific. And she's currently assessing several European companies operating in different European markets. Agnieszka Chylinska, she is an attorney at law and counsel in WF, Poland, Renewable Energy and Public Procurement Department. She's a business-oriented transaction lawyer with renewable energy, real estate, and public procurement background. From 15 years, she specializes in complex infrastructure projects, including energy projects and including those performed under the public-private partnership formula. She is responsible for commercial transactions in onshore, offshore, and solar sectors, and regulatory advice in development of RES infrastructure. And finally, Plácido Ostos. He is currently the head of customer analytics at LevelTen Energy. Plácido has 20 years experience in the power industry, and he has worked for Endesa, Engie, and Iberdrola in the past. His focus is regulation, energy management, and market analysis, and with global capabilities as he's been handling Spain, Europe, UK, US, Mexico, and Brazil. So, as a start, a reflection on 2022. So 2022 was the year that really put renewables in the forefront of the European agenda. So the invasion of Ukraine by Russia proved that the weakness of European energy industry and the extreme reliance we had on Russian fossil fuels. Even though the European Union had already been discussed some ambitious goals under the Fit 55 package, the energy security emerging in 2022 as a strong motivation that would accelerate the renewable energy deployment. At the European level, the European Commission's Repower EU plan, released in May of last year, proposed ending the reliance of Russian fuels by 2027. And among other goals, the plan aims to increase the share of renewables in final consumption to 45%, by 2030, exceeding the 40% that was at the moment under negotiation. So that is the goal. The goal is very ambitious, it's very clear, but the thing is that there are a lot of challenges yet to overcome. We are facing constant delays in the approval of renewable projects by national and local authorities that prevents more green megawatts to enter in the grid sooner. Also, the electricity market is currently being reformed. We have witnessed during 2022 never seen skyrocketing electricity prices. Storage needs to play a key role in the energy transition, yet many countries don't have a clear market framework for that. So, well, these are just topics of the agenda and the things that arose in 2022. So I'd like to ask the panelists what is their view on the European renewable market for 2023. So maybe Inés, you can start.
Well, thank you, Sonia. I'm very pleased to be here today in this discussion and catching up with some ex-colleagues that are present here, and very pleased, as I said. So yeah, taking it from the figures that you pointed out and the scenario, which I think is a good starting point, I would like to highlight that this new target that is included in the Repower Europe plan, the ambitious goals would mean taking to a double pace of what has been done in the following 8 years. And obviously this means multiplying by 3 the speed that we have had in the last decade in the deployment. I think this is very important to have in mind because we're talking about very fast decisions and very ambitious workload that each one of us has in the daily life, right? I would like to have a look at the figures of what has been installed in the last year, so 2022, to have a feeling of what are the main markets, which actually are aligned with the representatives in this panel. So it might not be a coincidence. So if we take the installed capacity last year, Germany is top 1, and it has been for a long time now, reaching almost 8 gigas of installed capacity, followed by Spain with almost 6 gigas that are split very evenly between utility scale and self-consumption. As you well know, all Spaniards are very familiar with this data, but we have reached 2.5 gigas in self-consumption. So this is very outstanding in terms of performance and in terms of potential. And then in the third place, we have Poland with almost 5 gigas of installed capacity. What is interesting is that Portugal and Sweden are new entries in the top 10 of markets in terms of size. And this has meant that Hungary and Austria have left the top 10 list. Obviously, we have Italy and Portugal as well, Greece, and then 2 Northern European countries, which are Denmark and Sweden. Total figure, accumulated figure, we have an increase of 25% reached last year, considering Europe as a whole. This means that installed capacity in Europe is currently 209 gigas. And I must clarify that all this data has been taken from the solar industry, okay? So I have gathered the information from the Solar Power latest report analyzing Europe. Obviously, this conference also includes wind, but we well know that the efforts in the European Commission are being done mainly in PV. Luckily, we have José Ángel with experience in wind that can also bring us some inputs on that. But all these figures I wanted to clarify that are from solar. One interesting data that I have gone through is the solar power per capita. And Netherlands is the leader in this respect with 1 kilowatt peak per citizen, followed by Germany with 0.8 and Spain with 0.5. This I find is an interesting data when we are considering the participation of the citizens more and more through facilitating the investments in self-consumption projects and so on. In between, what other interesting things I can spot out here to start the conversation? From what has been done up to now, 21 members of the European Union, it is envisioned that they will reach their 2030 targets before what was expected, and this means 21 member states would have reached it before 2025 if the figures are well envisioned for the following years, and only 6 members will be left behind, but reaching their goals by 2027. Conclusion of this data is that the ambition should be further increased in all these plans that are being published, and this obviously has to be aligned with other types of initiatives that we might be able to go through. I am starting to see there is more creativity, because we always have a clarity of what are the weak points, but sometimes we are lacking creativity in terms of how to overcome these challenges. And I am seeing more and more in all these plans that there are new initiatives that can be put into place, and I would like to share some of those later on if we have the time, how to address all the hot topics, and this would be for now my contribution here. I want to leave some space for my colleagues, my fellow speakers, but then we can get into detail of what the clients I am having approaching me are looking for in Europe. So we can go into details later on if you wish.
Thank you, Inés. And actually, you mentioned a very interesting point, which is how the solar industry is taking the lead currently. This is something we have also seen, and we will discuss later with José about how the wind projects have been generally rejected more than the solar PV. So it seems that the solar PV industry will have a smooth pace, and let's see what is the role of wind energy. It definitely needs to have a role. So Plácido, what is your view on the European market this year?
For 2023, well, it's we are in a very, very special moment. The last 2 years have been critical. I mean, the changes that we have suffered were pretty unexpected. So what will we see? Well, demand will probably continues to fall slightly. But the prices will remain, of course, high because of the gas situation. Even though, I mean, there is some infrastructure development, such as all the regasification plants that are being installed real quick in the north of Europe. We have seen the PPA side frantic activity, even though with very limited supply. But probably the key element in the last months, and for sure the year 2023 is regulation. So I cannot emphasize how important this year is going to be in terms of regulation, because it will set the pace for the years to come. We cannot make this wrong. So there are already a number of discussions about how to organize the whole thing. So in the meantime, again, some constraints in a number of supply chain, and of course high interest rates, some normalization of the energy industry. So would be a balance between those things, but probably to me the star of the year is regulation and the market design that is being discussed in Brussels.
What do you think the regulation will look like after 2023?
Well, I know how it should look like. It's clear that that freedom of choice is probably one of the most important things that we still need to remain, because there's been proposals which more or less disguised are not that free what they are suggesting, and then the short-term markets must remain marginal as they are. I believe it's curious, because what disgusts me is that if you talk with people involved, let's say, technical discussions, there is a lot of points of agreement. But then it's for politicians also to make decisions. And if you introduce these things, we need to be sure that we are able to provide good insights to ensure that the decisions are going to be correct.
Yeah, for sure. There is the key point, I think, for 2023 for the deployment of renewables, because we need to have a clear framework of deployment, the investment, at least from the investment side. We really need to know what will be the revenue stream. And for now, it's something so unclear that it's very difficult to actually take decisions, right? And considering the energy transition is paid by the private sector, so at least there should be clarity on that. And it is true what you said about freedom, because this is actually the reform of the electricity market is called a market intervention sometimes. So that tells you that there's been less freedom in what you will see.
Yeah, and there's intervention. So I fully agree. And as the thing is, there's probably the focus of the discussion, in a way, curiously to me, the focus of the discussion is about how to pay back for investments, which is something really important, and we need to discuss that. But the origin of why are we discussing all this is how to pass through the average cost of the actual cost of the energy to consumers, and the discussion is not that much focused on how to pass it through to consumers rather than how to pay for investment. Again, also very important discussion, but I think we're missing part of the point here. So it's for sure it's complicated. I mean, the reason we have many people discussing about this is because it's really important, and the thing is, we'll see what comes in the end. I have seen a lot of proposals. A lot of them makes a lot of sense. Some of them not that much, and we will see. But again, that's the start of the year to me.
Yeah, it is certainly difficult to find the balance, and that's very important to find it for both parts of the equation. Just that's for sure. So let's jump maybe now to some particularities on some markets, because we have here José Ángel, Inés, they are very working a lot on the Spanish market, and also we have Agnieszka that is a specialist in Poland, in Polish market. So about Spain, let's start for Spain, for instance, because recently we had really impressive news, which is that in about 20 days the government approved like around 80% of the capacity that was pending to have permission. So only the government had reviewed 36 gigawatts, and out of which 28 were approved. This is because in Spain we had a royal decree that set some deadlines, and this was the first big deadline of this legislation, which is having the environmental impact assessment approved. So I said, it has been really interesting that mostly all the files have been approved in around 20 days, when actually some of the projects had been waiting for years for this approval, and suddenly in some days the government managed to approve everything. So I'd like to know, José Ángel, from your point of view and your activities in markets as Spain as a developer, how do you see this, and how this affect your business?
Okay, thank you, Sonia. I like to thank first Future Energy for having us, and coming into the topic. Well, it's been quite amazing that this sudden release of environmental impact assessment, although we must also take into account some environmental that were released year before or 2 years before. So jointly with these 35 gigawatts recently released, we need to add what is already approved, and we need to add or it's been approved by the autonomous regions. So we may have between 80 or 100 gigawatts of projects with a positive environmental impact assessment. Now we have the next challenge, that is reaching the next milestone, which is in 3 months, this preliminary authorization, and then in 6 months, the final construction approval. So let's see how many of these gigawatts are able to reach that final stage, because something that we need to take into account that despite having environmental impact assessment, a positive response, depending on the conditions that you are imposed, that project maybe is not feasible. So now we need to see, out of those that were approved, how many reach the next stage, and if the administration is going to be able to manage such a large workload. So as a critic, and this happens in many conversations in the industry, that somehow we need to find a balance with these milestones and what you need to reach by a certain date. Obviously, we all realize that it's not the best way to manage this. Suddenly, we are 100% sure that all the legal steps has been taken, but one of the concerns is if some of these approvals or not approval or rejection has been done not having looked the projects properly. So that's one of the concerns. But coming into this scenario in Spain, now we need to short the next milestone, but probably the elephant in the room is, are we going to be able to build 20, 30, 40, or 50 gigawatts of projects within the next 2 years? It's the supply chain in Spain ready to support these projects? Because so far, if we look at the figures in the past, we built 3-4 gigawatts in the peak of PV, plus 2-3 of wind. We're talking now maybe having to build 20-25 per year. So if there's no change in the final milestone, which would be equivalent to the COD, similar, by June 2025, that means that in less than 2 years and a half, we'll need to build a massive amount of gigawatts. Maybe it's a question in the future for Plácido from a PPA perspective, how to manage this amount of energy into the grid. But not sure. I think this somehow is the elephant in the room. Are going to be able, as a country, as an industry, to build all these megawatts? Obviously, we all think that our project will be the one reaching the final stage. But along this race, many of the projects, I think, maybe physically will fall. Meaning that there's either no funds or no equipment or no. At certain point, they'll find a constraint. So I think that the Spanish market is very attractive. It's calling all the investors for the last 5 years. And I think that we still have a very long walk to deploy all the renewables that we need. But maybe in the next 2-3 years, we need to sort out this positive problem, because the problem of building is positive. It's far better than in the past, where the problem was we weren't building enough.
Yeah, certainly is a good problem, right? And so, do you think there are any regulatory changes that the market needs to meet the targets?
Well, in Spain, we are used to have changes every month. So probably most of the developers try to avoid many more changes. One of the traditional complaints is that we have too many regulations, many different regulations from region to region, and the speed of the process is extremely slow. So it's maybe a matter of having or either simplifying or having a more reasonable regulation. I think in the industry we are always very open and we adapt to the new scenarios, but I think it's hard to go at the speed that we need in Europe and we need worldwide to deploy the renewables with the current pace. Usually, wind project in Spain may take 5-7 years. Despite with the new regulation, we need to reach COD in 5 years. But with all the campaigns you need to do and to have a properly developed project, we need that time. So if I have to write my wish list, it would be to simplify regulation, to have a quicker response from the administration, and the projects are able to reach or to be deployed quicker, because we need that energy in the grid as soon as possible.
Yeah, and it certainly follows the guidelines from the European Union, right? That they want all the countries to be quicker in the development and all the approvals, and that's certainly one of the main bottlenecks that we are seeing in Spain, but not only in Spain. Actually, I think that's generally there are too many files, probably too many people to process them from the authorities' perspective, and it's taken, as you said, forever to develop a project, and we can't certainly accept that, because then we will never meet the targets. So you discuss a bit the bottlenecks and the challenges that you see in Spain, and I'd like to ask Inés, what are the opportunities that you see in the future for the market?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you were recently discussing about potential changes. I think that harmonizing the criteria to deliver the permits, licenses, and so on could be in benefit of the deployment of PV in Europe. Because we are finding that there's a lot of players, and this is aligned with my current experience. A lot of players are present in various different markets, or are just gathering experience in their own market, finding a slower pace in the development of their projects and wanting to enter other markets in order to diversify, so time-wise, their revenue. And so finding different rules and different ways of doing things in each different country and region just makes it really hard. And if we include the language barrier, and if we include the setting up of your structure, finding the correct human resources, finding the stakeholders that would provide you with the equipment, and so on, it just makes it really exhausting. And you might be able to, in your business model, include other countries, but you need harmonization of criteria. So I think this would facilitate the whole permitting process. Maybe not just being creative independently in each government, but setting some criteria, not only as methods, but also in the gathering of data, because we're talking about a target that affects the global situation. We're talking about reducing the carbon footprint. We're talking about becoming more independent and having more reliable and secure sources of energy. And this concerns the whole world. At least now we're talking about a more feasible scope, which is the European one. And I think we have to get also more ambitious in what are the procedures to follow. This was something interesting that I wanted to bring along. And also, I would like to get the impression of my fellow speakers regarding this potential guideline given by the European Commission about silence means an approval for a permit. would you think this is a good idea, or as José Ángel was saying, it might just be an additional concern in the project because there might be complexities that arise later on, or that are just not going to get the acceptability of the communities where they are based, or whatever other issue. So this is something that I would also like to bring along in the conversation. And then I think that when we talk about financial instruments, we're always thinking about the investor in PV assets. But now the question here is facilitating also the access to financial instruments and financial funds for the industry, the manufacturing industry. Because I think that, as José Ángel was mentioning, ensuring reliable supply chains and supporting the industry means a lot of investment in the production facilities and in operating and maintaining them. So there must be some kind of switch and sensitivity towards investments that have to be done there. And it would be good to have investment funds maybe giving us their input about this. Are we considering at all investing in the manufacturing of this equipments and critical raw materials? It is interesting that the European Commission is aware that the United States and India are taking the lead in these strategies to ensure their supply chains. And definitely the European Union has to catch up, and setting up free trade agreements as well with trading partners would definitely also diversify our dependency of Asia, which is currently the situation. As catching up with the question that you posed, what I am feeling on my daily work, as I said, is that European actors that are, for example, gathering experience in Germany are willing to enter Spain, for instance, which is one of the cases, and most of them are focusing in self-consumption. This is clearly because they cannot afford the 5-year average that it takes for the permit granting in large-scale solar, and definitely because there is an idea that it will become mandatory for new buildings. So this is creating a lot of interest in all the self-consumption actors, and I'm finding as well that Spanish actors, even if there is a huge and vast opportunity to be developed in the following years in Spain, they are also targeting other markets, following C&I customers that they have and that are present in Europe. So this global approach of not entering from zero a market, but just following your customer wherever it is placed, is also a trend that I'm finding more and more.
Yeah, so I think you pointed out something very interesting, which is having a unique framework. For sure, I think that will be really helpful because, as you mentioned, it's not only that every market has a regulation, but also if we go to a market like Spain, you have 17 regulation because we have 17 comunidades autónomas. So that's absolutely crazy. It's impossible to know the detail of everything, especially from someone coming from abroad. So I'd like to ask Agnieszka because she's a lawyer, so she can better tell us about this part. So how do you have a lot of I guess international clients that want to invest in the Polish market? So what do you think are the main challenges or or how is the development, how they see things. Can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Sure. So firstly, thank you for having me here today, and greetings from surprisingly sunny Warsaw. So yes, it's true that we are in the first third when it comes to solar. There is sun is here, and potential is here, and I think that when it comes to foreign investors and when it comes to Polish market, it's not so much different than Spanish, German, and other European markets when it comes to the eagerness to harmonize rules and laws, when it comes to, let's say, concrete and transparent rules on the access to land, on the developments, on the proceedings, administrative decisions, etc. So even though in Poland, similarly as in Spain, there are loads and loads of acts, regulations, policies, constitutions, etc., you name it, when it comes to develop of onshore, offshore, and solar. Still, the market, the investors, our clients, eagerly awaits changes in a few aspects. So the first, let's say, challenge is still the grid connection points, because there are too few of those grid connection points here in Poland. So even though the Poland outdo the expectations when it comes to investments, every investor starting the development process is not 100% sure whether they will obtain the grid connection conditions or not. So one of the answers to such challenge is the introduction of a, let's say, proper environment, legal environment for dialect lines. Yes, the lines between the producers and clients and consumers. So it's happening, and I think the 2023 will be very interesting year for Polish legislative work and legislatory environment, because yes, indeed, the proper introduction implementation of Directive 29/944 of European Union on which the goal is to introduce the direct lines. It's to enable the investors to construct such direct lines, and the aim is to facilitate the process of obtaining the consents from the Energy Regulatory Office here in Poland to construct such direct line. So that's the first challenge and solution. The other one is, of course, how to unblock the onshore potential, right? Because since 2016, even though we have quite a strong market in onshore and wind farms, still there's a lot to do. And the first thing is how to change the distance between the wind turbines to the residential housing, because according to the current law and this infamous 10H rule, according to the law, you can develop the wind farm with having into the mind that the distance between the wind turbine to the nearest residential building should be 10 times the height of a wind turbine, which means that the law is the most severe in Poland because it allows to develop the wind farm in a proximity of 2 kilometers from the residential housing. So now the parliament is discussing the amendment to the law, and the very day today they agreed on the amendment to the law, according to which such distance will be in practice 700 meters, but it's not the distance that the market is looking for. The market was lobbying for 500 meters, like in majority of European countries, and it might be only 200 meters, but in practice it means that the potential would be 10 gigawatts of new wind farms if we have this 500 meters distance, comparing to 4 gigawatts of new wind farms when we have this 700 meters distance. So we as a DWF, we are very active in legislative work, and we are very active in the Polish associations of wind farms and photovoltaics. So we will be lobbying in the Senate to let's say rediscuss this distance and to introduce finally the distance of 500 meters, which will really would be robust for the onshore wind in Poland. So again, a big change for 2023. And lastly, I think one of the biggest current challenges are the prices, because the Polish Emergency Measures Act introduced last year in October, they introduced the maximum prices at the level of approximately 170 euros for megawatt hours for small and medium enterprises, and around 160 euros per megawatt hours for residential housing, which is first of all is quite low, and secondly, it caused a little bit chaos when it comes to PPAs and corporate PPAs. So what's going on in the market in 2023, I think, would be a switch from let's say physical PPAs into the is the switch from the corporate PPAs into the physical PPAs. But to be honest, it's quite hard to predict how the market of PPAs will look like in Poland due to those maximum prices.
Maybe Plácido can enlighten us on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're thinking. Yes.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So Agnieszka was mentioning about the prices cap in Poland and how the market will look like from the revenues perspective. So well, I was telling that maybe you could help us with that situation.
Well, pretty general. I mean, she probably knows more about the exact way of the police. They have chosen a different cap for solar, wind, etc. But what I would like to highlight regarding that topic is that pretty much no one discussed setting a European price cap, because we all understood the reason and the situation and all that. What we have ended up having is a myriad of different caps, depending on the country, depending on the technology, depending on the year of installation. So the thing is, the regulation itself got crazy because of that. And so we spent the last 20 years since the market started to develop in Europe, 25 years, trying to expand the footprint and align the different regulations. And when the crisis come, we started to just explode the whole thing, and each country or each region or each technology going its own way, and that's been crazy. And so yeah, that's what I can tell you. I mean, of course, we have seen probably the minimum price that we have seen is in Spain and Portugal is 67 euros per megawatt hour, and some others are leading the 180 euros per megawatt hour B. But again, for me, the most important discussion on that is do we want to go as a block, or do we not want to do it? So that's what I can tell you on for example, on the PPA market, is that, of course, we have seen a lot of developers, and José can probably mention more, a lot of developers, when they see all this regulatory noise, they, of course, kind of stop for a minute and say, okay, what is going on? How is this going to evolve? And so a lot of projects have been paused in a way, or the prices have been showing this increased regulatory risk. So in a way, as I was saying, all this regulatory noise that I was talking about has made more bad than good in terms of renewables deployment.
We were mentioning at the beginning of the session about the electricity market reform. So I'd like to ask you whether you think there will be an impact on the PPA market, or what is your view on that?
Well, For sure, in terms of uncertainty, as I was saying, just having this kind of discussions, it already passes a lot of projects and activity till the whole thing is clear. So in a way, the sooner the better. But then, of course, it depends a lot on what is fully or it's finally approved. I mean, there are different ways of boosting the industry as a whole, PPA markets in particular, and we'll see. I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail unless all of us want to get involved in this discussion, which I'm happy to do it. But the thing is, we all know that permitting is a huge bottleneck. So we'll improve that. We all know that PPAs right now is mainly for corporates, but there's been in the last year, for example, a lot of work by the European Investment Bank, and a lot of people is trying to expand the amount of demand that could be able to access PPAs, which is just another way of contracting energy in the future. So the whole industry agrees that we need to reinforce forwards, that the national auctions are there to help also improve the whole thing. But PPAs have different advantages, particularly they are tailor-made. It's a private agreement that, by definition, fits in your desire of business, and it's been skyrocketing since the last 3-4 years. So the thing is, there is an appetite for demand, and also I have to say that in the past it was seen pretty much just like a guarantees of origin or green certificates, whatever you want to call it. If you want to reach your green objectives as a corporate, you were looking for a PPA, but because of the energy crunch and the prices that we've seen in 2022 and 2021, corporates have realized that it's way more than that. It's a way of getting certainty with your cost, energy cost. It's typically very competitive, and also has a green certificate. So it has pretty much all a big corporation need or a big retailer needs. So that's why it has exploded the way it has gone. And so that would be kind of the highlights. I'm happy to.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are running out of time, but yeah, go ahead. Yes. I hope we are allowed to run a bit out of time.
Can I?
Yeah, maybe 1 minute.
Can I bring just a new ingredient here? And maybe it's just a rhetoric question or a question with no answer. I certainly follow all the benefits of power purchase agreements, but I am foreseeing that more and more the approach to energy is more on a social level. So protecting vulnerable consumers and also enabling industries to continue existing in all sectors, especially when they are important for also the own renewable energy sector. When we're talking about the competitivity of the equipment that we're going to use in our supply chains, etc. So my question or my reflection here would be, what do you think and how is this going to be handled? There's more and more sensitivity to lowering the prices through auctions with the governments and through schemes that assure that the price will lower for all, and how this will affect the PPA segment.
So Inés, if you recall, in my first intervention, I did mention that there's been a lot of discussion regarding how to pay back for investments, but not enough discussion on how to translate to pass through the cost to consumers and industries.
Yeah, you understood that from an LCOE point of view. Yeah, okay.
So the thing is, I mean, a national backed auction is not any cheaper or expensive or more expensive than a PPA. I mean, of course, you have more counterparty risk, but at some point, you may trust more that corporate counterpart than the government, depending on the circumstances. But the thing is, it's pretty much the same value. It's just how do we ensure that this low cost renewable energy goes to the consumption?
Yeah, well, I think this is also a reflection for governments that are releasing auctions with some target prices and that obviously are not being attractive for the players in the market with the current prices in the merchant scenario. So this is also a subject, I think, that requires creativity from the regulator in order to address this social aspect of access to low prices and energy for all.
Yeah, but again, recommenting things that I have mentioned, freedom is probably, free market is probably the best thing. So the regulator has to, let's say, verify that things are more or less under control. But if you allow people to find their way, they will always look for the cheapest option, the most optimal resource allocation.
So, my point here is how strategic is energy and electricity for Europe, because if it's something to protect, if it's something that is really at the core, then maybe there should be some reflection to be done here with the auctions. But it all depends on how important it is for us right now. I think it's top one, but yeah.
So, well, sorry to interrupt you. We are running out of time, but really exciting conversation. A lot of things we discussed, challenges, current situation of the market, potential problems that we'll have, also opportunities. So, well, on my side, I hope in 2023 the renewable industry keeps being right. So hopefully we will continue growing and installing more and more capacity to meet the targets. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, the speakers, for this very interesting conversation. Now we will be jumping to another panel, which is called Solar Sector in Europe, Trends of the Growing Market. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to join us at the last panel debate of Europe's Future Energy Virtual Summit. In this opportunity, I'm your host. My name is Nanda Singh, part of the Energía Estratégicas team. And as you can see, I will be sharing panel with some business leaderships of the electricity sector who came from companies as Canadian Solar, Meteocontrol, Getra Power, and Znshine Solar. Welcome to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
To start with, I would like to introduce Alejandro Moreno, and I allow myself to read this part. He's General Manager of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa at Canadian Solar. Thank you, Alejandro, for being part of this event. And let me introduce to the audience that we will be talking about the solar sector in the current context. So for that reason, Alejandro, what thoughts can you share with the panel regarding the context of the solar supply chain after the pandemic, and how did it impact Canadian solar, both as a provider and developer?
Sure. So let me thank you very much for the invitation. Let me clarify: should we talk in English or should we talk in Spanish? How do you prefer?
Yes, we'll be all in English.
Okay, perfect. So no, thank you very much again for the invitation. And look, the last couple of years, as we all know, have been a big mess, no, for all of us in our lives, and the solar sector has not been, different to any other activity in the world. No, I mean, we all know that there was a big, for first time. I mean, I joined, this industry in 2005. No, and something that was granted, no, in the past in this industry is that every year we will be expecting a decrease in the capex, no? Between 5-10%, thanks to increases in the efficiency or thanks to new materials improvements. We saw this continuously, no, not only in the module price, but in general, I would say in the whole capex, no, that is affecting the project. This happened from 2005 until 2020 continuously, and then suddenly when the COVID came, something that it was granted that we were expecting, lower prices, was completely different. The trend changed completely. We all suffered inflation. We all suffered all the issues with the logistics, the big increase. Suddenly the containers went up from $1,000-$2,000 the container to $15,000 the container. Increases in all the raw material, no, that we need for manufacturing, all the equipment that we need in a solar plant. So that really changed a little bit the trend. I can say that we were lucky in Europe, for bad reasons, but we were lucky. We were lucky mainly because of all the conflict in Ukraine, no, all the situation with the war in Ukraine and Russia. As we all know, the energy prices went up dramatically, in a way that nobody was even expecting. So in some way, that was mitigating partially, all the increase in the capex that we have been suffering in the last couple of years. Now the situation, I think, is becoming again a little bit more stable. A big portion of what happened in increasing the capex was coming because of the polysilicon constraint. Now there is apparently more than enough polysilicon in the market. So this year we should be again finally seeing in the market prices aligned to what we were expecting in 2020. So we are coming back again 3 years ago. We are forgetting like these 2 or 3 years with on this strange situation. And the trend is again the same. The trend is that in the next year, we will be seeing again some kind of decrease in the capex, continuous decrease in the capex. And on the other side, some relatively or moderate increase in the energy prices in the industry. So I would say that in general, the industry in Europe or the PV projects in Europe, they navigate in a relatively smooth way, all the turbulence, that we face on the logistic, on the supply material chain, thanks to this combination of increases in energy prices with increases capex.
Thank you, Alejandro. How did that affect Canadian solar? You are right now established, or you need to resolve some troubles?
No, look, I mean, we have been always active in the same way. I mean, we haven't really, in my case, our division is more focused on the development and execution, the operation of solar projects everywhere. So we have been active. We didn't really discontinue our activity just because of this turbulence in the market. We continue executing all the projects that were planned, and nothing changed in our schedule. In the case of the manufacturing side, look, all the manufacturers always in the last, I would say 10 years, basically, they have been completely sold out. Independently on the conditions on the market, the PV industry is growing and growing and growing. And Europe is not an exception. I would say just the opposite. Europe, for example, is growing even more than the rest of the world right now. We can see now plenty of gigawatts market. in the past was only Germany, sometimes Spain or Italy, or even France or UK, but now we have plenty of markets that are going to be doing more than 1 gigawatt every year. No, so nothing changed in our side. I would say that in the past 2 years, most of the margin, most of the profit was going basically to the polysilicon manufacturers, and now we are a little bit more lucky, and this margin is going to be shared within all the value chain. So not only all the manufacturers, but also a little bit with the sponsors, with the EPC companies, and all the shareholders that are participating in this industry.
Thank you, Alejandro. You were really clear in your answer. Let me now take a few seconds to remember all the audience that they can follow us on social media. You can find all the companies that are on the panel with me right now on LinkedIn and follow them to get in touch. Now, yes, continue with the panel. I welcome Fernando Ruiz Ogarrio, that is right next to me. He's Sales Manager Iberia at Meteocontrol. And I would like to ask you, Fernando, what trends do you identify for the digitalization of the electricity sector in Europe, and especially those that can be applied to photovoltaic solar systems?
So thank you, Nanda, for the introduction and also for the invite to participate in this virtual summit. So about the question you asked me, I mean, digitalization is a mega trend. Yeah, we live in a digitalized world. Perhaps we are not aware many times, but we are already, and it's not going to be different in the energy sector. The trend in Europe towards in the electricity market towards digitalization, I think, is in many ways digitalization itself. We have, I think, last year, I think the European Commission launched an initiative called the Repower EU, which is basically a initiative that has a goal, a specific goal, that is to bring electricity to the European markets in a secure way, in a affordable way, and in a available way. So it's a initiative especially conceived for the incorporation of massive amounts of renewables to the grid. And I think digitalization enables, in a way, this incorporation of decentralized power plants to the grid is the thing that really enables it to work. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible, because we see how in Europe, in the different countries, we are seeing every day new power plants, big power plants being connected to the grid. This means a increasing amount of complexity, especially for the securing of the grid, of the transmission of this power. The grid operator has a certain flexibility to work with, but it really needs to manage this complexity and the amount of energy that is being fed into the grid needs a visibility, actually. And this means it's achieved through digital components, sending data, for example, to a central system, and the grid operator will be then monitoring this data. This is made for the proper working for making it possible, first of all, Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to feed in so much new capacity into the grid. It gives certain flexibility to the grid operator and also information about the consumption, the production, both to the grid operator, to the sometimes as well distributor of energy. So all in all, I think digitalization itself is the enabler of the energy transition itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible.
For sure. And Fernando, sorry for adding you another question, but I think the audience will really appreciate it. Do you have any recommendations for project owners who are about to incorporate this type of monitoring tools and other solutions?
Yes, I mean, we ourselves, Meteocontrol, are a monitoring company. So a big part of our solutions are also digital. If I were to recommend for new plants, I mean, I would say, first of all, to have a monitoring platform to know what is happening in your plant asset. Yeah. And then to plan a bit for the future as well. I mean, you know that we are incorporated in the future nowadays. I mean, we are producing electricity that has to be consumed whenever it is produced, because we don't have yet a storage in an industrial, in a very big capacity. So most of the electricity has to be consumed whenever it is produced. In the next years, obviously, we will see much more storage around. So we will see, for example, hybrid plants that have photovoltaics installed and that have batteries installed in them, etc. So if you are looking for a monitoring system, also think about the new developments so that you in the future you can also manage your portfolio of assets with new technology coming. Also important is to know, to have a look. I mean, there are many different solutions out there. Have a look, really define what the use that you want to give to the monitoring platform will be. We, for example, at Meteocontrol are very specialized in the managing of portfolios, asset portfolio. So our platform is conceived also for managing complexity, as we said, given the client flexibility. It's a very friendly use platform, but not everyone has the same requirements. So I would say have a look on your needs, and there are many solutions out there.
For sure. Surely many professionals who are watching the event are taking notes of that. So thank you, Fernando, for that point of view. Now I want to give the floor to Ciro Sannino. He account manager at Getra Power, a company with more than 70 years in the market. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Ciro.
Correct. No, correct.
Perfect. And with that experience of the company in the market, I would like to ask you, how do you rate the moment that Europe is facing in terms of electricity, and how does it affect a company like Getra Power?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us to this panel. It's an honor. I really appreciate it. Well, regarding our point of view, so in terms of electricity situation in the European market, and to be focused on, of course, the major scope of supply of Getra, so the power transformer or shunt reactor. Well, what we see during the last 2022, and with your presentation at the initial of this year, that well, there are a lot of projects coming, and also we have several projects that we are performing during these months, and To be honest, what we faced during last year was the situation regarding the raw materials, that it's necessary, of course, to start the process, and in our case, to start, of course, the manufacturing of our equipment, the power transformer, because last year was very an unstable year from price point of view in terms of raw material like copper or magnetic steel. So we had a lot of problem to, first of all, try to maintain the price given during the tender stage, and then, of course, to receive that material in our factory. Also, because the European market is very demanding in terms of delivery date for the project. And actually, we are receiving a lot of requests that the major clients like utility or the BDPC contractor, they are asking a delivery terms in like 8 or 10 months from the order. So you have to manage the situation from the very beginning in terms of also to purchase the order for the raw material. What Getra did last year, according also to their experience, we tried to, let's say, increase our relation with our sub-supplier for the major raw material, because it's very essential in order to start the process and match the dates. Also, another thing that we, let's say, face is that the request of the typology of the equipment, it's a little bit changed from the according also to the a lot of renewal projects are coming in Europe. They are asking a different equipment. Like now we know that they are asking a more shunt reactor than in the past, or transformers for synchronous that are different equipments from the standard time. And we noted that not only, of course, in Italy, but in all Central Europe, and of course even in Spain, where we are very present with a lot of projects coming with the company like Energy Power, for example, that they are putting a lot of investment in renewable projects.
Perfect. We will continue with that answer in a few minutes. Now, as we are a panel on solar energy, I would like to add a question about solar energy specifically. Therefore, I would like to ask Ruiz Slimani, Europe Sales Manager at Znshine Solar. What are your most demanded module in the region? And welcome.
Hello. Hi, thank you for having me during this event. Me, as part of Znshine Solar, we have a large range of solar products in our portfolio. We have the high certified models, of course, from poly, mono, single glass, double glass, bifacial. The main products now demanded by Znshine, especially in Europe, they're double glass and bifacial, the high efficiency powers, of course, using the 545, 560, 600, 660, using the high efficiency powers like the N-type top cone technology. We also have the thanks to our double glass, that advantages of the double glass, no micro cracks, PAG-free, larger warranty than the single glass. We provide 30 years warranty on double glass compared to the single glass modules. And it's most demanded basically in Scandinavian countries such as Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and also in East Europe and Baltic countries as well. We at Znshine Solar, we provide very strong double glass modules. So thanks to our glass thicknesses, it's very with any environmental related issues, it's very strong and it can resist to any environmental issues. So we have about 30% of our production lines basically for these double glass modules, and we have done big projects last year using double glass modules and bifacial.
Perfect, Rim. Thank you for answering that question. We will come back to speak about technology soon. Now I would like to continue with a new round of questions about market opportunities and the companies, of course, that you work for. And changing the initial order of panelists, I would like to ask Ciro about some specific news about Getra Power. I read that Getra Power has closed agreement with Energy Group that will guarantee the supply of transformers for 1 gigawatt, I think, for his renewable projects until the end of this year, if I'm not wrong. Can you tell us how the commitment is going and what new agreements have you reached for this year?
Yeah, your information is correct. We have several contracts ongoing with Energy Power that's honestly coming from a tender process started in the middle of 2021. And of course, was a big tender with several projects that they decide to split the delivery dates between 2022 and of course this year. Currently, we have more or less 10 projects ongoing that are different status, and so far they are going pretty good. Honestly, we are, for example, we have a project that actually we are in a situation like design review, which means that our engineering team and their engineering team, they are aligned regarding the final design of the power transformer, and then of course we will start the manufacturing process according to design review approval. So we have a project that are in this situation, and another project that we actually during this day we are performing the FIT, so the factory acceptance test, which means the final test once the manufacturing process is completed, where also we have to invite the final clients to our factory to let's say make a supervision regarding the test, and they are going pretty good. They are doing fine. We have delivery date scheduled for the middle of this year and the end of this year for, of course, Project Energy Power. But of course, we are doing every month tender process with other clients, and we are very proud that we reach another agreement with the different clients, always located in Spain, that which called EDP, that we receive like a test order. So the first order from this client, and that we are going to supply a power transformer. We will start this year the design, but the delivery date is scheduled for the 1st of May 2024, and we have put a lot of attention to this order, because when you are successful with the new order with the new clients, we have a lot of opportunity to, let's say, to start a new relation with the new clients, and to have a much more order in the future.
Perfect. Another company that brings news to this panel is Canadian Solar. Alejandro, Canadian Solar recently launched his first alternative investment fund in Italy. And from there, what milestones has the team reached in Italy, and what new businesses opportunities are coming up to the rest of Europe?
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. I mean, we closed this initial first fund in Italy. In this case, it's going to be 120 megawatts, but we have close to 2 gigawatts of projects in our portfolio in Italy. So our intention is to replicate this business model and to be launching different funds in the near future. So why we are doing this? I mean, on one side, logically, is optimizing the returns on the project. And it's also allowing us to keep ownership, in the long term in the projects. I mean, our intention, like many other companies in the industry, is to become an IPP at some point. And in order to become an IPP, you need to start retaining assets in the long term, retaining ownership in the project. So in this initial case in Italy, we are going to be retaining 40% of the project. So that will allow us to really have recurrent revenues in the future, and become the IPP that we would like to be. I want to be replicating exactly the same model in other countries. It depends on the country. It depends on the different options that we can find. In other countries, we are just basically planning to operate 100%, to own 100% of the projects that we are going to be building. Right now we are quite active, I would say in Spain, Italy, and UK. Those are our 3 main markets in Europe. But in terms of more opportunities, we are growing a lot now in France, in Netherlands, Germany, and Poland, and opening new markets, like Greece, Sweden, Romania, and some other markets in the Eastern Europe. So basically, our intention is to be everywhere, or everywhere where the framework, the legislation and the regulation is really helping, to be there. As I mentioned before, Europe right now is offering plenty of opportunities to anyone. The market is really big, and sometimes what is difficult is really to choose, which are the markets that we would like to prioritize, no? Because there are many and good opportunities almost everywhere, no? Right now in Europe, no? And another opportunities that we see, no, in the market in the short term, no, is going to be something completely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's storage, no. We have a very good track record already in storage in California, no? And I would say California and US is probably one of the first places where everybody was talking about the DAC curve, no? That is at the end, how the renewable energies could really be doing this that we call cannibalization, no? I mean, how they will be really affecting to decrease the prices because all of them are operating at the same time and we don't have anything that is really regulating how to avoid that problem, no? So in California, because the situation was faced a little bit before than in other markets, right now it's a reality that any project should really have storage, no, collocated. No? In fact, there are projects that are only storage, standalone storage, no? And we are working on that. No? We have one of the biggest one of the largest in the world that is 1.4 gigawatt hour, no, in California. So I think the situation in Europe is going to be exactly the same. It's true that we are still waiting for some kind of clarity, from the regulators, from most of the countries. But the reality is that with all the implementation of renewable energies, not only solar, but also wind, that we are expecting in the next years in Europe, in all the countries in Europe, I think the next good opportunity, but good not only because financially speaking makes sense, but also because technically speaking is completely necessary. I think it's going to be mandatory, is to really invest a lot of time and effort on this kind of storage projects that, again, in many cases could be something collocated to the PV project, but in many others is going to be a standalone storage project, really working in different ways. There will be different sources of revenues, and this is what the governments really need to prioritize in the next months, I would say, because there is not too much time to really regulate this before we can really be facing a big issue in the market, in the energy market in Europe.
Yeah, I understand. Continuing with digitalization, I want to ask Fernando, Meteocontrol received a new certification of one of their latest power plant controllers. And how are these controllers going to contribute to the stability of the power grid? And what advantages with solar plants located in Spain probably have from their implementations? You are on mute.
Sorry?
Perfect. You was on mute, sorry.
I was on mute?
Now I can hear
Okay.
you. Yeah, continue, please.
Yes, we just got passed the NTS, it's called. In Spanish called Normativa Técnica de Supervisión. It's a new norm created, I think, last year by the grid operator in Spain, Red Eléctrica. And it follows a bit what Alejandro was telling about. Is always about grid stability at the end. Yeah, it follows a European norm and a protocol IEC 104 that it exists already since some years now. And what it does actually is after passing some tests, etc., is a requirement so that the grid operator can intervene. What we were talking about, for example, in California, that curve intervene by ramping down or ramping up assets in real time in case of need. This regulation already existed in Europe. The only thing that the changes in Spain is that in Europe, the time of response, so the ability that the grid operator had to, for example, ramp down a certain power plant was maximum 2 seconds. And now in Spain is 500 milliseconds, for example, in Spain mainland. In the island, it's different, it's even quicker than that. Is I think about 150 milliseconds. So what it does actually, we are producers of hardware as well, not only digital solution. We have a platform, monitoring platform, digital, web-based, but we do also hardware. And within the hardware, we are manufacturers of loggers, so the ones that are collecting data in the power plant, and controllers, potency controllers, the ones that are regulating the plant in a certain way. So with this certification, the grid operator has the ability of setting set points within a plant through our controller. So our controller is programmed effectively to put into place an required action by the grid operator in a certain amount of time. And for that, you have to pass a number of a procedure in order to be awarded with this new norm, NTS. And it's also the norm that allows now in Spain for new projects to be granted to have the certification to be connected into the grid. It's also a requisite. So what it does for us is they put us in the list of the probable solutions if you are one of the certified solutions if you are going to build a power plant, because you will have to have certificated hardware in the plant in order to obtain a certificate to or the permit to be connected to the grid.
Thank you, Fernando. And talking about technology, I would like to ask Rim, what type of solar module technology do you think will prevail in Europe for large utility scale project, or that segment that you are working on? Again, the mic is on mute.
It's on mute. Okay, you can hear me now.
We can hear you.
Great. So I think with the new solar tendency and for larger projects, solar projects in Europe, we are looking for high efficiency power. So we now the technology that will be prevailing or most demanded in solar projects, I think, is top cone technology using the N-type cells. Compared to the P-type, the N-type cells have better resistance to high temperature, bring many advantages such as better performance in rough condition, lower degradation rate, and it can go up to 25% in some solar projects, some powers compared to other technology, which in best case scenario can be 24%. So when we say top cone, it will become quickly our standards for utility projects for some facilities, and especially in mass production. For mass production for solar facilities, it can come with a lower cost. So I highly, from my side and from Znshine company, we are working now on top cone technology, and we have our own facilities, new lines to have only the top cone technology for larger projects, and we start already to deliver it for some projects. I think the only disadvantage for the top cone now, for the N-type cells, that the production, the steps, the additional process steps is a little bit higher on the price than the normal cells. But as the solar tendency, as we know during all those years, it's the cost for the solar is less than any other technology. So I think that in a long term, top cone will be, and the cost will be very good, and it will be the best solution for larger projects.
Thank you for your answers, Rim. We are close to the end of this event, so I will hurry to ask you, all of you, about market challenges, as we spoke about integration of renewables, variability, flexibility. So starting with Alejandro, what legal framework are you expecting to be established this year to provide the European system with more flexibility?
Look, it's a good question. The European Union already mentioned and already approved a very clear package or two different regulations. One of them is really to try to expedite the process of the permitting in all the European Union countries. No? But how that is really translated into reality, we don't know, or we don't know yet. I mean, we really hope that this is not just a good intention regulation, but it's really translated into reality. Bureaucracy is a big issue everywhere. It's right now the bottleneck to really implement more gigawatts every year in Europe. No, I would say it's the bottleneck probably everywhere in the world. No? But I mean, talking specifically about Europe, especially in the south of Europe, is really a problem. No, so when we saw in all these kind of market reports, no, the numbers that everybody's expecting in Europe. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm a little bit skeptical because of exactly because of the permitting. No, I mean the intentions are there, the investment is there, the sponsors are there, the project finance is going to be available, the PPAs are going to be available, the suppliers are more than available, everybody's available and really willing to make this grow. But then bureaucracy is bureaucracy everywhere. No, and they continue with their timing and they are not really receiving the same pressure, no, that all the other parties that are involved in this market. No? So again, let's see exactly how this regulation is transforming something more than a wish list, and is really something that the governments are implementing seriously. No, we have also issues in all the countries. This is not unique in Spain or Italy, but we have also issues between central governments and local governments. So there should be, and then a lot of agencies, environmental agencies. So there should be a very clear communication to really try to be solving this problem. No, other issue, and this is more related not to Europe but to the European Union countries, is the interconnection, no, of the grids between all the countries. No, look, we have been talking a lot about this. And this has been solved in many other industries, but not in our industry, in the energy. Well, how is possible that whenever we have countries that are really active in solar, and countries that are really active in wind, and other countries that are active in nuclear, or I mean, all the technologies really can survive together, you know, and can live together. But how is possible that we don't have a real grid, European grid, where really we can import and export energy according to our needs, no? And according to also the source of energy? As I mentioned before, south of Europe logically is going to be more solar, north of Europe is going to be more wind. So let's do something as a group, no, as a team, no. Right now I can see that all these policies, all these strategies, and all these initiatives are run on a local basis, no, country by country, and logically each one is following their own agenda, no. So that is never going to work, no. So we really need some kind of plan on a high level basis to really try to integrate all the countries together, no. And finally, I mean, there is a scarcity of connection. So I mean, all the grids in all the countries really need to continue, no, upgrading or improving or creating even new substations, because right now this is the main problem we are facing everywhere. No, it's difficult to find connections. I mean, just to give you one example, in UK right now, whenever you are really looking for new sites, for new projects, new applications, the COD date that you're receiving is 2033. You know, I don't know if all of us will be working here on 2033, no, but 10 years from now doesn't seem to be really following the urgency that we are facing in this industry, no, in this market. No? So we really need to push the countries, no, the governments, to make real plans, no, to improve the grid in all the countries, to be sure that we can continue deploying everything that the industry is capable to deploy. No?
Thank you, Alejandro. And I saw Fernando smiling, so I will continue the topic with he. Related to that, Fernando, what decisions do you think will be taken in Europe to improve the integration of renewables in transmission and distribution networks?
Yes, I mean, I think connecting a bit what Alejandro was saying, exactly, yes. I mean, you have some problems, infrastructure being one of them. I mean, we don't, the grid we have is the grid we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, we are talking about thousands of kilometers of infrastructure. So we have to do with it. About also interconnection, European policy, energy, exactly. I think in Europe is already taking some steps. The one I mentioned, for example, Repower EU is one of them. It's a very large program with many hits and things. There are some groups, for example, looking at what Alejandro meant of creating a European virtual plant, because obviously you have to have the information, the data, the connection. We talked about digitalization on all these things. This has to be a bi-directional data flowing into the grid operator and back, so that the grid operator can, if it's the case that you have too much production and not much demand, for example, in the case of California that you mentioned, that is coming to Spain as well, you start seeing these dark curves already, and even worse than that, curtailments, etc. Yeah. So in order for that, you have to have the capacity of monitoring the different the production that is being produced in every country in order to be able to perhaps even plan for the future. All of that, you can do it by exchanging data. When we talk about this, is why digitalization is so important, because it gives flexibility. Yes, you are receiving data about the production, about the consumption. You can plan for the future. You can build a model for the future, what is going to be needed. You can make easier exchanges between interconnection between countries, etc., etc. So I think there are a number. There is, for example, a group called the Smart Meter Group in Europe, like already looking at not only utility scale plants, but also in the households, that every household is equipped with a digital meter that is sending information about its consumption, when, at what time, etc., in order to give flexibility and in order to find new capacity within the grid. Because obviously the rest is having to build a new complete infrastructure to to put the new capacities in it. So I think what we talk also, storage is going to be something that is going to help a lot, obviously. These are the things I would say. Digitalization is a very big important part. Energy management system in general, when we are talking about also consumption, and improving things that are more efficient. For example, when we are talking everything that is smart, smart cities, smart buildings, smart cars, everything that is smart is called. We are talking about digitalization at the end. We are talking about all these things that we hear every day, big data and machine learning and AI. All these things are related to digitalization at the end, because we tend to forget that software at the end. We talk about the improvements in, for example, in the performance of modules or performance of wind industry, but we forget that many times all of that is possible. It's only possible because of software at the end. So I think steps have been taken in that direction. Perhaps we are not there yet, but there is a big effort. I mean, you see with we were talking about this new norm NTS to assure the stability of the grid, for example, in Spain, because of the new capacity that is getting in. Otherwise, you cannot ensure the stability in terms of damaging the grid. Yeah. So I think we are already in that direction. It's taking time, because I think we are moving even faster than the renewables. The energy transition is moving even faster than what anyone had anticipated.
Of course. Part of this new infrastructure that we need, sorry if I pronounce wrong, are transformer technology. And he is Ciro. And I want to ask you how much transformer technology evolved to respond to the variability of some of renewable energy, such photovoltaic, and what challenges remain to be solved in this short term?
Well, the electric power generated by renewable energy, such of course photovoltaic solar, require especially operating and performance by the transformers equipment. And so, for example, talking about the design of transformer, we know that the transformer are designed with a really low losses, for especially no load losses, in order to increase the system efficiency even in the dawn of generation. So we're talking about during the night. And so there are many situations that we are managing when we are studying project related to the photovoltaic solar plant. And for example, where you can find a site where you have a high corrosive environment, so you have to take care and regarding the protection of all external part of the power transformer in order to, let's say, protect the external part. Looking at the future regarding the situation that must be solved, we have to be honest that the most of transformers that are installed in the solar plant are using, let's say, are mineral oil, which so is not so environmental friendly. So the idea and the proposal that we wanna, let's say, try to pursue in the next future, of course they are already using, but we wanna try to do more, is to use power transformer with natural oil. It's of course fully biodegradable, and of course they can help better the environmental. So this is, let's say, the target we are trying to pursue in during these days. And another point that we have also to take care is regarding the complexity of the electrical grid that is growing so fast, according, of course, to all these renewable projects. And in order to taking care about the grid and maintain the network and also guarantee the stable of the grid, it's very important that the manufacturing producer, the EPC contractor, the utility must be worked very close in order to have a design alignment also during the project, which will guarantee the stable of the grid. It is also very important, and it's another situation that we are trying to manage very close with the other partners during the execution of the project. With, of course, the power transformer is a part of the project, but it's not only equipment that must be installed in the plant.
Of course. So thinking about the future of the energy sector, I have one last question for Rim before to go. And Rim, what innovations do you think this industry should work on to maximize performance of solar energy system in Europe?
Thank you. So I think from my side point of view in Znshine Solar, we think we need to have a combination between top-coat technology and the graphene coating glass. This is a nanotechnology that specializes with Znshine Solar. It's self-cleaning option. It's nanotechnology inside the glass that can maximize the performance of the modules with 2% more generation than standard glass. We expect lower maintenance cost fees for the developers. It's the thinnest, lightest, more flexible technology tests have shown that self-cleaning have great benefits on the solar modules. So the efficiency of the end cells, accordingly with the graphene technology, it can lead us to high powers and better performance for the modules. Accordingly, as well with the other technology, which is the HGT technology, which we need to work on it for the next year to come. So the highest performance of the modules is the most technology that we need to work on it, as I confirmed before. So the combination between the top cone and the graphene can be great. We expect big high power such as 700 watt and plus now for the large projects. So let's hope that we can. We expect that we'll have this technology and for the upcoming period.
Perfect, thank you, Rim. So we go to the end of this discussion panel. Alejandro, Fernando, Ciro, and Rim, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you a lot. And thanks to all the audience who were there until the end. And before you leave to the audience, remember to follow Future Energy Summit on social media, and remember to like this video. If some of you have one last phrase that want to share as a conclusion, you are free to say it. If no, we are saying goodbye to all the audience.
A quick comment on my side, if you don't mind. I mean, I would say, I read the message in the chat, and look, I agree. They say, no, Alejandro is quite optimistic. I mean, in general, yes. I think if we are in this industry, we need to be optimistic, because the reality is that everything that is happening is not similar to what we were expecting just 10 or 15 years ago. No? So, I mean, the industry is really showing that we have very good reasons to be optimistic. There are a lot of challenges. I agree with one of the comments that, we need to be sure that the lenders, the private finance is going to be there. And we need to be sure that we are going to have enough people to really build everything that we are expecting. But this is probably something that it's going to be could be an issue, in Spain, but not in other markets. And in general, I was talking more about Europe, as a whole. But again, the message from my side is that yes, I think we need to be optimistic, because the reality is showing that we are always achieving what we are trying to achieve, as an industry.
Of course. Anyone else that want to share their own point of view? Okay, no further questions. So thank you to all, and see you soon, probably in a new event of Future Energy Summit. So keep in touch on social media, and that's all for today. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.